We associate menopause with the ovaries. But when women say that they're having hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, memory lapses, depression, anxiety, those symptoms don't start in the ovaries. They start in the brain. Those are neurological symptoms. So why is that? Why are our brains impacted by menopause? Well, first of all, our brains and ovaries are part of the neuroendocrine system. As part of the system, the brain talks to the ovaries, and the ovaries talk back to the brain every day of our lives as women. So the health of the ovaries is linked to the health of the brain, and the other way around. At the same time, hormones like estrogen are not only involved in reproduction, but also in brain function. And estrogen in particular, or estradiol, is really key for energy production in the brain. At the cellular level, estrogen literally pushes neurons to burn glucose to make energy. If your estrogen is high, your brain energy is high. When your estrogen declines, though, your neurons start slowing down and age faster. And studies have shown that this process can even lead to the formation of amyloid plaques, or Alzheimer's plaques, which are a hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. These effects are stronger in specific brain regions, starting with the hypothalamus, which is in charge of regulating body temperature. When estrogen doesn't activate the hypothalamus correctly, the brain cannot regulate body temperature correctly. So those hot flashes that women get, that's the hypothalamus. Then there's the brainstem, in charge of sleep and wake. When estrogen doesn't activate the brainstem correctly, we have trouble sleeping. Or it's the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, close to the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain. When estrogen's levels ebb in these regions, we start getting mood swings perhaps and forget things. So this is the brain anatomy of menopause, if you will. Most women go through menopause in their early 50s, but it can be earlier, often because of medical interventions. And the common example is a hysterectomy or an oophorectomy, which is the surgical removal of the uterus and or the ovaries. And unfortunately, there is evidence that having the uterus, and more so the ovaries, removed prior to menopause correlates with a higher risk of dementia in women. How do we protect our brains? Should we take hormones? That's a fair question. It's a good question. And the shortest possible answer right now is that hormonal therapy can be helpful to alleviate a number of symptoms like hot flashes, but is not currently recommended for dementia prevention. There are other things that we can do today to support our hormones and their effects on the brain that do not require medications, but do require taking a good look at our lifestyle. That's because the foods we eat, how much exercise we get, how much sleep we get or don't get, how much stress we have in our lives. Those are all things that can actually impact our hormones. Food, for example. There are many diets out there, but studies have shown that the Mediterranean diet in particular is supportive of women's health. Women on this diet have a much lower risk of cognitive decline, of depression, of heart disease, of stroke, and of cancer, and they also have fewer hot flashes. What's interesting about this diet is that it's quite rich in foods that contain estrogens in the form of phytoestrogens, or estrogens from plants that act like mild estrogens in our bodies. Some phytoestrogens have been linked to a possible risk of cancer, but not the ones in this diet which are safe, especially from flax seeds, sesame seeds, dried apricots, legumes, and a number of fruits. So diet is one way to gain estrogens, but it's just as important to avoid things that suppress our estrogens instead, especially stress. Stress can literally steal your estrogens, and that's because cortisol, which is the main stress hormone, works in balance with our estrogens. So if cortisol goes up, your estrogens go down. If cortisol goes down, your estrogens go back up. So reducing stress is really important. So these are just a few things that we can do to support our brains, and there are more. But the important thing here is that changing the way we understand the female brain really changes the way that we care for it and the way that we frame women's health. And the more women demand this information, the sooner we'll be able to break the taboos around menopause and also come up with solutions that actually work, not just for Alzheimer's disease, but for women's brain health as a whole.